welcome back to the program.
Oh, Ben, it's great to be back, Benny. I was just telling your people, you and your family, the pictures are great. I love the pictures of your family. I love it.
Well, we're thankful.
Family.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wish we had more of a family-friendly topic to talk about. Happy to do that on any other show.
Yeah.
You made a lot of news by saying to Steve Bannon the other day, yo, listen, I don't believe any of this. I built that prison. I have major lingering questions. Now, it's the contention of Bongino and Kash that Jeffrey Epstein killed himself. They haven't presented any new evidence to that effect. But given the fact that you know this prison better than any human being alive, the floor is yours. What's your take on these new claims?
I have the same respect for both those men that you do. They're both personal friends, and they have more evidence than I have. So I'm going to say this with that caveat, okay? But I'll just tell you what's available to me, my own analysis of it. I just find it hard to believe. I find the set of circumstances, if you were to ask me, let's put them aside for a moment, their opinion. If you were to ask me just on the evidence that I have, and nobody's actually put out all the evidence, and what I know of that prison, it's highly unlikely that somebody could commit suicide. It's a small prison to start with. It's not, the ones being used now is the Brooklyn Detention Center. That's probably 3 times the size. So therefore, it's an easier prison to guard people. And if you have a super important prisoner like that, and as far as I can tell, he was the only one in that category in there at the time. I know what happens when you put a prisoner like that there, because I put plenty of them there, including occasionally terrorists. One of the reasons we were hit, I always believed on September 11th, is we had this major Al-Qaeda trial going on. And there was a real focus on New York by Al-Qaeda. And we had to take care of those terrorists in that place occasionally. And we'd have to do special arrangements for them. But if you wanted to watch him, you could have watched him 24 hours a day. It makes no sense that the cameras were out. The guard station would alert you to that. Well, think about it. You've been in facilities like that. I'm sure there's a guy sitting there and he's got a bunch of television cameras in front of him, right? Those television cameras show him all the key places in the facility. If a camera is out for 2 hours, I mean, the guy's got to be taking a long winter nap to miss it. And not to have substitute guards there for a guy that just came off suicide watch a day ago. Of course, why did you take him off suicide watch? The circumstances hadn't changed. So, I mean, what do I, to be fair, what I have are questions that all lead to, which you would call circumstantial evidence that it was not a suicide. It's also a fairly low prison. I don't know exactly which cell he was in, but some of the cells there are, I assume he was in one that was fairly tall. But if he was in one of the shorter prisons, the actual act of hanging yourself would be really hard. You'd have to have some help. In general, hanging yourself is not that easy in a small, confined space. So I could come up with maybe 3 or 4 others. I think it argues for, you got to put it all out. Maybe there are things you and I don't know that make it definitive that it was a suicide. I don't know. I don't know what those would be. So how can I just back off my opinion because 2 people I respect tell me that? At the same time, I'd be less than honest if I said those questions weren't answered. No one's explained to me why the cameras weren't working. No one's explained to me why that wasn't alert. Wasn't an alert of some kind in the guard room. Maybe the camera didn't function that way anymore. I don't know. I can't imagine that you wouldn't have a camera where the security guy is, particularly for a key prisoner. How could you have him unguarded for a long period of time? Why did you switch him? There could be answers to all that, including like if they just tell us the cell he was in and the height of it. That would help. Let's say it's 12 feet high, 14 feet high. Well, okay. But let's assume it's only 10 feet high. That's pretty hard to do that. So that's where I am on it. And And the whole situation with him seems like for about 12 years, 15 years, this guy had some kind of special situation going on, right? Even that original case in the Bush administration. That was in the Bush administration, remember, when they basically gave him a deal that let him off for what appeared to be serial pedophilia. That's a pretty serious crime, except in California. And so the questions are there. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah. So at that time, Alex Acosta, who was the federal prosecutor there in the Southern District of Florida, said that he was told to back off because Epstein belonged to Intel. That's what he said before the Senate committee. It's on camera. And he had to then back off, and then he got a plea agreement and walked. Right. And
I don't know what implications there were. Let's assume for a moment that there's some kind of real serious national security issue that we're not aware of, and maybe shouldn't be. I don't know whether he committed suicide or not would matter all that much. Because they'd have to be looking for somebody who killed him. Unless it was somebody we can't look for, I don't know.
Right. And that of course begs the question, Mr. Mayor, like who would have the ability to go into federal lockup and kill someone? Who has that power? Who has the power to turn off the cameras? So if your contention is the cameras were off, this is very shady, no one was going in and out, yet the cameras get turned off. Jeffrey Epstein is sharing a cell with a serial strangler who's also a bodybuilder. He also happened to break multiple bones in his neck in this very successful suicide. You'd have to beg the question, the cui bono, right? Like, who has the power to turn off cameras in a federal prison facility?
The superintendent. I mean, the guy running the facility at the time, even the superintendent in charge, like the duty officer, I would imagine has the right to put them on, turn them off, and also alert people that have to be fixed. And how long does it take to fix a camera? I mean, they must have had an extra. There had to be a place in that facility that had a camera you could move there that was less important than that. That was the single most important prisoner they had, who, as I emphasized again, was on suicide watch. So those are the things that make you wonder. And then the apparent look. I have to believe, knowing the people involved, including the delay in putting out the things on Epstein, there's some very serious issues involved. These are, as you said, honest people. They have no. If this is wrong, this is a mistake. It's not a deliberate thing. But with regard to not putting the information out, there has to be a very serious national security issue that's going to have to be explained, or maybe this isn't the right period of time to do it, given what's going on in Ukraine, given what's going on in the Middle East. This can't be, some kind of a personal thing. This is a government thing. Just think of all the secrets we have, right? We keep locked up for the Kennedy secrets were locked up forever, and who knows if we even have gotten the right information, if it wasn't changed already. So I think it just raises the question more, and there are a couple of answers that have to be given that, unless I'm missing something, I think you could give without giving away whatever the terrible thing is that they're trying to deal with.
It does beg the question. You've been a prosecutor. You've obviously prosecuted some of the highest profile cases in the history of federal prosecution, bringing down the mob in New York, a lot of legendary cases. It's important to get the information out to the public, right? Like that stops people from asking or going down the wrong path, right? It's actually incumbent for the government, and we can take it. We're all adults. We've all seen tough photographs from wars and the Ukrainian front lines or October 7th or whatever. Like, why not just be out with it, with all of the information and evidence? Put it all to rest.
It baffles me. Why not? Because it does create a lack of confidence. When you have an open questions like this, and this isn't the only one, there are others, right, about the government. When you have open questions like this, that's the reason you end up with those percentages. So few people trust the government. So this all takes its toll. Yes. And when you need to summon that confidence, maybe it's not there. So yeah, these are important questions. They're not. This isn't some kind of frivolous case, or this is a case that's very, very important. This guy clearly had friends at the highest levels of government, not just our government, at the highest levels. So this is not voyeurism. This is national security.
So one final question about Epstein and the cross section with New York, because he was living inside of a $53 million mansion on the Upper West Side, and this was a mansion that had the famous Bill Clinton painting in a blue dress sitting in the Oval Office. Did you know anything about that place?
I don't. You know, it's a really strange thing. I didn't.
Can we have any evidence from there? We have photos, Mr. Mayor, of the FBI. The FBI released some photos that they probably regret doing that have boxes of it. He had boxes of hard drives that were wrapped in yellow evidence tape. And the FBI testified that they didn't put the tape there. And we have boxes of them. CDs with that say nudes on them. The CDs say nudes, Mr. Mayor.
I don't know why I'm laughing. It isn't funny, but it is weird.
What the hell is this stuff?
I'm very glad to say I never saw the place. All the time I was U.S. attorney, and all the time I was mayor, and all the time I was in New York City. I'm not sure I don't think I ever met him. I have no recollection of meeting him or knowing about him. I think I heard the name a few times as a big Democratic. I mean, when you'd read about major Democratic fundraisers, when he got in trouble, I remember the name. Oh my God, there's another Democratic fundraiser that's a pervert. Maybe I have a little bit of a biased view of it, but you tend to look at those things. But that should have yielded a tremendous amount of evidence. What about the island? I mean, gosh almighty, the island, you could search the whole darn place. I can't imagine this guy'd operate for the period of time he did, and he left no evidence behind. Or now this is a supposition, and it could be wrong, but he seemed to me the kind of guy that would be framing people, doing what the mafia used to do when they ran all the gay bars. People wondered, why would the mafia run gay bars on the west side of Manhattan? Because judges would go in there, and politicians would go in there, and important business people would go in there. Snap. They take a picture, and like you remember in The Godfather, when the senator got in trouble, they can walk in and they can fix things for you. We'll go see the judge. His wife's not going to like to see this picture. I'm sure this guy did that. I'm sure he had plenty of evidence on the people that could help protect him. So maybe I'm wrong, but if that's a logical assumption, right? And the way you investigate, Benny, is you take logical assumptions, and that's your circumstantial evidence, and then you go answer them. I always followed the rule: you start a murder investigation with the person with the biggest motive. The person with the biggest motive logically committed probably 70% of the murders. So I always wondered why Lyndon Johnson wasn't the major focus of a John F. Kennedy investigation. I can't think of anyone, including the mafia, was going to go on whether or not Kennedy was president or not. The Soviets, they had a motive to kill every American president. They didn't do it. Cuba maybe, but probably they'd have to have the help of the mafia. I don't know that Cuba could have penetrated. But then you got the guy with the most obvious motive. He wasn't going to be president. They were thinking of dropping him in favor of Governor Connolly, who was in the car with him. There's rumors of that. Robert Kennedy despised him. Robert Kennedy knew he was a massive crook. That he couldn't even believe that his brother took him on the ticket. The guy used to give out cash on the floor of the Senate. And Robert always appeared to me to be the more judgmental of the two in the right way. John Kennedy seemed to be more of the smooth politician. And Robert Kennedy reminded me of, the kind of prosecutors who used to work with me. He might have had different political ideas, but from a prosecutorial point of view, he was terrific. And Johnson hated him. He hated Johnson. I mean, it was like blood feud. And I can't imagine, of course, I never got to talk to him about it, that being the investigator he was, that wasn't always on his mind. There's the guy. This guy never be sitting in that White House. if my brother were alive. He either would have won or lost the presidency, and Johnson would have been gone, and they may have dropped him. They may have, they were thinking about it seriously. And Connolly was at that time, I believe, more popular in Texas than he was. So these are things that I think when you leave these questions, here's how it isn't just curiosity. It's people then begin to develop a certain percentage of people that don't trust the government. Yes. And they may not even think that until you go question them on these polls and say, do you trust the government? And they think, gee, they never really answered Kennedy. They're not answering this. And I don't mean this administration. I mean, every administration hasn't answered Kennedy. They've done more than anyone. I just think the evidence may be gone on Kennedy. If they were powerful enough to fix the Warren Commission, they're powerful enough to grab the key documents that can answer these things and get rid of them. I can't imagine they let them sit around in that file for half a century.
Do you believe that there is a preponderance of Epstein evidence that still exists? Do you think that we'll ever see anything, Mr. Mayor?
I think I think it still exists on Epstein, and I think I think we are going to see it, and I think they're struggling with it. I really do believe that. I think we are.
Why are they struggling?
Because I think it probably involves something that could have big implications on our national security, foreign policy, allies. It has to be something very, very, very sensitive. Yeah. The Kennedy thing, I think, is gone. I think we're just going to be one of those things where we're going to be discussing it 100 years from now. If we still have history as a course, well, certainly not in the Ivy League schools. They don't do history any longer. That's a subject that isn't taught.
So, and this is the final question on the subject, but given what you know about the prison that Jeffrey Epstein was held in, how would you kill someone in that jail?
How would I do it?
How would you do it? How is it possible?
I think the easiest way to do it is to make sure you're going to use something that doesn't show up in the blood. End up sedating him, and then hanging him. Accomplish the hanging yourself. Now that could be done with the help of one or two people. You could hang him easily. You can hang him any place with the help of one or two people. But there's even dispute by the outside medical examiner as to whether he was actually hung. I mean, I don't know the answer to that either. Maybe there's a definitive answer to that, but that question has been raised by an outside report. So there are more questions than there are answers, and it shouldn't be that way. There should be more answers than questions, and with the two of them saying that, I assume there are answers, but we're just not getting them.
Yeah, and your advice as a legendary prosecutor yourself.
My advice is to put that out.
Yeah.
Put out the answers that lead them to the conclusion. The way I just laid out the questions, give us the answers you have to that. I don't think that's going to lead to, I don't know, let's assume some very important, critical person, or he was involved in some very critical mission for the United States. The fact that we raised a question, the issue that he was murdered, is not going to reveal that. It's going to create more of an impetus to find out about it, but it isn't necessarily going to give away that information right away. So I would love to see one of the two of them sit down and tell us how they came to that conclusion. And I think that would help.
Yes.
Help settle one thing, and then possibly say the rest of it, you have to just leave it to our judgment to release at the right time.
Well, you can't have a functional country with so few people trusting the government. You actually want to have a functional country. You want to be able to trust federal law enforcement to do the right thing. And it can't happen if the vast majority of the American people believe that they're protecting the world's foremost pederast. It can't happen.
Yeah, it makes it harder. I think that this is the strange thing. This is why it's so frustrating. He's done a lot of things, meaning the president, Kash, Bongino, and the whole team. They've done a lot of things to restore confidence in the government. I mean, they've taken on things that I didn't think they'd be able to take on this quickly. I mean, they've gone after the deep state about as strongly as you could go after them in the period of time they had available to them. So this is sort of an outlier. It's not helpful. And it's going to have to be answered at some point. I mean, we're not in the 1960s and 1970s where they let the Kennedy thing slide. This is just too important.
Right.
So I wish it was answered sooner rather than later.
I love that you brought up Kennedy. I love that you brought up Clinton, because it's it just shows it's a people's history of cover-ups in recent history. I mean, if you can kill a president on camera, then
it's almost a default position.
Yeah, that's right.
Now we're talking the last, I don't know, we could be going back to the Second World War, maybe equal number of Republican and Democrat administrations. So we're not talking about necessarily a part. If we're talking about crooked city governments, we're talking Democrat.
Yes. Oh, well, this is a perfect segue to Letitia James.
It's about 150 years of that.
If
we're talking about fooling around, I mean, messing around, doing things dishonest at the national level. We have our history of that too. So, and remember, Kennedy had to be covered up by both Republicans and Democrats. Nixon was in office for 6 of those years. He would have had every motive to put it out. And probably he's one of the people, given the fact he was president and also very tied into the government and the agencies. He's one of those people who probably knew the answer.
Well, he's on the tapes saying he knows who killed John.
Yeah.
We have the White House. We have the tapes. And then Richard Nixon had Watergate launched against him. 4 of the 5 people that broke into the Watergate were CIA agents. It's like...
it sounds like January 6th.
Yes.
Small version of January 6th. Practice.
So the hoaxes against President Trump are many. One of them was run out of New York. Letitia James is now in hot water herself. And you say that you're very proud of the speed at which the Trump administration is moving. Letitia James is obviously quite a big target. We call her Big Tish on this program, and it seems like she's in hot water quite bigly. What's your take on this, Mr. Mayor?
Well, my take on it is that they've created for some people an equivalency between what she did and what the administration is doing. What she did is in both she and Bragg, both cases, is create a crime that doesn't exist and produce false evidence to support it. I just remind you of the evaluation of Mar-a-Lago at $18 million. Every time I live in Palm Beach and I look at 40, 50, 60, $80 million 4-bedroom homes. This thing is worth, you pick the price. It's one of these priceless places. If I said $500 million, you jump at it. If I said $1 billion, I might be closer to it. The guy absolutely lied. I mean, he should create a value. I've never heard of a fraud case where nobody lost money. The definition of fraud is, putting people at disadvantage, hurting them. She's charged with saying that you live in, Virginia or Maryland when you're the Attorney General in New York. That's a pretty big lie on a loan application. Maybe there's no explanation for that. Saying that a building is smaller than it actually is, you cheat people out of the amount of money they're going to loan or their security and collateral. They actually get cheated. And there's plenty more. These are things that anybody be prosecuted for. And I remember she was the one that constantly said, nobody is above the law. Well, if we were to ignore the fact that she put herself in a marriage with her father in order to save money, cheat people out of money, who could justify that? The only problem is, does it get tried in New York? And our New York jury is just as bad the other way. I mean, they'll convict anything that smells Trump. If she puts up, Trump is coming after me, are they going to have a hard time? Now, it is a federal case, right? I think it's a federal case. And you tend to get a better jury in a federal case because you're talking about a much bigger pool of people for a federal case. So we might get a fair trial there. But this has to be tried. I mean, it's ridiculous to fight the U.S. Attorney's Office. It's public. She's the Attorney General. She lied about her residence and her marital status in order to cheat people out of money. Pretty cut and dry.
You would predict prison time.
If she got convicted?
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Sure. I mean, she maybe not if she were just a regular person. This is where having public office probably disadvantages you. But the fact that she had public office and she's really lying to the people of the state that she's a resident about her residency, and she's putting people in jail aggressively, and here she is involved in fraud. Yeah, it sounds like a prison, at least some form of prison to deter other public officials from doing the same thing. I think if she was just a regular citizen messing around with a loan application and it was a first offense, I'm not sure I'd put her in jail.
So, interesting times, good things to come.
Fascinating. I think it's the most interesting times in the, I'm 80 years old, soon to be 81. And it's the most interesting, and I've been through, my recollection begins with the Korean War. I was born as the Second World War ended, but I was interested, my family was very interested in politics. So from the time I was a child, my mother and father were discussing communism and the danger of communism. And one was a Republican, the other was a Democrat. But my father was a Democrat who now would be a bigger Republican than my mother. He was an anti-communist Democrat, aggressively anti-communist. And he switched somewhere along the way, I don't remember, but now he'd be sitting there saying, how could I have belonged to that party? I don't know what's wrong with him. There's something seriously wrong at the highest level of that party because they do too many things that are irrational, like wanting dangerous criminals back among us, people who commit crimes like rape and murder and abuse of children. They want to bring them back. I mean, and they can't seem to pick their issues against Trump. I mean, Trump could really destroy them by kind of making up issues and then just suckering them into being against it. I go back to the wall. For years, they were all in favor of the wall. On record, there's video of Schumer and Pelosi, wall. Trump says wall, and now he's a racist, a xenophobe. They even know the pictures are going to show up. They have so little regard for the public, or they figure they can alibi their way out of anything because I think it all comes down to owning the press, Benny. I think you feel like when people evaluate Republican political advisors, say it's not fair. It's not fair. It's like having a basketball coach, and every time your team goes on the court, they only get 1 point for a basket, and the other team gets 2. Now you want to evaluate the two basketball coaches against each other. I'm running a campaign for a Republican. That's a major effort. I'm fighting off the New York Times and NBC and ABC. You're running it for a Democrat, and you can print anything you want. So that's got to change too. I think we're doing a good job with that. And when I say we, I mean you and me and Dan Bongino and everybody who does this. And you take a look at 2020 and 2024. The difference could be we had more of an independent media in 2024. There are people who tell me, who've done an analysis, that if we had the same percentage of independent media in 2024, it wouldn't have mattered that much that they were able to censor the Post and the hard drive, that it would have gotten out.
That's right.
Through the alternative media within 4 or 5 days. So we have some things that are very positive too.
It's true. I'm a glass half full kind of guy by nature, and silver linings, and we've always appreciated that optimism about you, Mr. Mayor.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you a lot. You're one of the key figures in this group that sometimes I hate to mention it because I'm going to miss somebody. Sometimes I put out a list of, this is the media now. It's this group of 50 people. They're going to tell you the truth. The rest. Listen to them in order to know what to contradict.
Mr. Mayor, I don't know why. For some reason, the creepy painting of Bill Clinton is up on the screen.
Oh my God. I hadn't looked at it in a long time.
Would you ever hang that in your Palm Beach house, Mr. Mayor?
I don't think so. Or nor would I nor would I stay in a house that had one of those things in it for too long. I'd be scared.
What is this? Final question. What is this saying to Bill Clinton? Many have speculated this is Jeffrey Epstein saying, I own you, right? I have the goods on you.
Here's another thing. I think he says he never was on the plane. And then there are supposed to be all kinds of records he was on it 27 times. Well, are there or aren't there? I mean, those records, I can't imagine, were destroyed in the amount of time. We should be able to figure out who was on the plane.
Right.
And when he was on the plane, the Secret Service was with him. There should be government records of that.
Correct. Release them. Establish trust once again in federal law enforcement and release these records.
I mean, what is there some kind of national security? I mean, he's presumed innocent, but let's say he is guilty. Where's the national security issue there? We find out that Clinton was on that plane 27 times. It's a very damaging fact, but that isn't a fact that we should be classifying.
He's never had to answer any question. And to your point of a media cover-up, Bill Clinton has never he's never been asked a question about this on the record by any reporter, sat for thousands of interviews and never had to answer a question.
And the government? Not that I know of.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly right.
He has to be on your list, doesn't he?
He should be on the list of people who are brought in for questioning.
If we were doing a Sherlock Holmes investigation of this, he'd be on the list.
Right.
Or if those old movies, they'd all be in the room.
Of who would benefit.
The eight people, the Charlie Chan movie, they'd all be in the room. Agatha Christie, they'd all be in the room.
Who would benefit to Epstein's death? Definitely.
Yeah. Who would benefit the most from this guy?
Right. Yeah. Well,
interesting.
Big questions, and it's our obligation to continue to create friction and to make sure that there's pressure from the outside to release these documents. It'd be good for the country. Be good for the country to have them released. Everybody needs to go over and assist in this process. You can do that by following Rudy Giuliani, America's mayor, on X. He has nearly 2 million followers on X. Needs absolutely no introduction or help from us, but
no,
legend,
it does.
Rudy Giuliani.
We're on it 7 and 8 every night.
That's right. Please tune in for his show right there on X, and the only guest that we've ever had on the program who also starred in Seinfeld. And so we thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Benny. You do a great job, and God bless you, and God bless your family.
Go fight that non-fat yogurt. We'll never forget.
I have a coffee that I sell. I should sell a non-fat yogurt.
We're big Seinfeld fans. All the producers are massive Seinfeld fans. It's just a classic, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Godspeed.